Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real today. Sometimes women get caught up thinking a man is ignoring them when in reality, he's not ignoring you at all. He's trying to process what's happening inside of him. A man who is starting to fall for you doesn't always know how to handle that rush of emotions. He's not built the same way you are. Women can feel, embrace, and express love quickly. But a man, he slows down, he analyzes, he questions himself, because falling for someone makes him vulnerable, and vulnerability is something most men are afraid of. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something that gets misunderstood every single day in relationships. When a man goes silent, when he steps back, when he doesn't respond with the same energy you expect, the first thought that comes to a woman's mind is, "Hey, he's ignoring me." But what I want you to understand is that silence is not always rejection. Many times, silence is reflection. A man processes love differently than a woman does, and when he begins to feel that pull in his heart, when he realizes he is starting to fall for you, it doesn't always come out in words, it comes out in quiet thought. That pause you see, that stillness you notice, that gap in communication is often him sitting with his feelings, trying to make sense of them, trying to understand if what he's feeling is real, deep, and safe to surrender to. See, ladies, women are naturally expressive. When you feel something, you want to talk about it. You want to share it. You want to connect over it. You want to put it into words. Men, on the other hand, are taught from a young age to hold feelings inside, to not appear weak, to not show too much emotion. So when a man starts to fall for you, he doesn't jump to confess it right away. Instead, he goes inward. He sits in that space of quiet reflection, not because he doesn't care, because he cares so much that it scares him. Falling for someone means giving up a piece of control. It means risking heartbreak. It means stepping into unknown territory. And for a man who has spent his whole life trying to be strong and guarded, that's not an easy thing to do. Think about it like this: when a man is not invested, when he doesn't care, he doesn't think twice about what he says or does. He'll talk freely, text freely, make plans freely because there's no real risk attached. But when he's falling, suddenly his moves become careful. Suddenly he wants to get it right. Suddenly he feels the weight of his actions. And that's when you may see him pull back a little. That's when the silence shows up. Not because you don't matter, but because you matter too much. His reflection is about making sure he can live up to what he feels, making sure he's ready to handle it, making sure you're worth the risk of his heart. Now, I know it can be frustrating. You're sitting there thinking, why isn't he calling? Why isn't he texting like he used to? Did something change? Did I do something wrong? But let me assure you, most of the time, nothing is wrong. What's happening is that his heart is working faster than his words. His emotions are running deeper than he knows how to express, so he needs time. Silence is his way of catching up, of aligning his actions with his feelings, of figuring out how to step forward without fear of messing things up. Men don't always know how to articulate vulnerability. Love makes them feel exposed, and exposure makes them cautious. But silence doesn't mean absence. A man who's falling for you might not say much, but he will show you in little ways. He'll notice what you like, remember small details, adjust his behavior to make you comfortable. He'll be protective of your peace, careful with his words, intentional with his presence. He may not be filling your phone with constant messages, but he's thinking about you more than you realize. Reflection happens in that quiet space, and it's in that quiet space that he decides how far he's willing to go for you. It's important to see the difference between indifference and reflection. Indifference is careless. Indifference doesn't notice you, doesn't prioritize you, doesn't show up. Reflection, however, looks like pauses, moments of distance, but followed by thoughtful actions. A man who is falling will give himself space to breathe, to think, to understand his own heart, and then he will return with more purpose, more clarity, and more commitment. And if you learn to recognize that difference, you won't mistake his silence for disinterest. You'll understand it as preparation. Ladies, you deserve to know that sometimes the strongest sign of love is not loud, it's quiet. It's not in endless words, but in consistent presence. A man who is falling for you is not ignoring you. He's studying you, admiring you, questioning himself, and preparing to give you the best of him. That reflection is his way of honoring what he feels, his way of protecting the bond that's forming, his way of making sure that when he steps forward, he does so with intention and not just impulse. So instead of rushing to conclusions, instead of letting insecurity convince you that silence equals rejection, I want you to remember this truth. Silence often means reflection, and reflection is the space where love grows stronger. It's the space where a man learns how much you mean to him. It's the space where he realizes you're not just another chapter. You're the story he doesn't want to lose. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to share something with you that is often overlooked when it comes to relationships. We live in a world where people expect love to always be loud, to always be vocal, to always be about constant communication. But men don't always show love that way. A man's love, more often than not, shows up in actions rather than words. And if you're waiting for a man to prove his heart through endless texts, through constant reassurance, through saying, I love you, every 5 minutes, you may miss the way he's really telling you how he feels. The truth is, consistency speaks louder than conversation. See, when a man is falling for you, he's thinking less about what he can say and more about what he can do. Words are easy, but actions take effort. Anybody can say, I care about you, but not everybody can show up when you're sick, when you're stressed, or when you just need someone to sit in silence with you. Anybody can say, I want to be with you, but not everybody is willing to sacrifice their time, adjust their schedule, or make you a priority in their day. Love for a man is not always written in the sentences he speaks, but in the consistency of his effort. Now, don't get me wrong, words have their place. They can encourage you, inspire you, and make you feel valued. But words without actions are empty. A man who is serious about you may not shower you with constant compliments every hour of the day, but you will notice that he never forgets to check in, never fails to show up when he says he will, never allows his actions to betray the trust he's building. That is what falling in love looks like for him. It's less about flooding you with sweet talk and more about proving to you over time that you matter. Think about it like this. A man who isn't serious can say all the right things, but when it comes time to follow through, he disappears. He talks about the future, but doesn't act like he wants one. He makes promises, but never fulfills them. That's not love, that's performance. But a man who is truly falling for you doesn't waste time pretending. He makes his feelings known by doing, not just saying. When he cares, he moves differently. He looks for ways to make your life easier. He makes space for you in his plans. He considers you when making decisions. That's how men speak love, through consistency, through effort, through showing up again and again. Ladies, sometimes you misread love because you're waiting for it to sound like your version of love, when really it looks like his version. Women tend to value emotional expression through words, through reassurance, through affection that is spoken. Men, however, value showing reliability, providing security, creating stability. That doesn't mean he doesn't care as deeply. It just means his way of showing it is rooted in what he does more than what he says. A man's love language often comes in the form of action, and if you pay attention, you'll see it clearer than any paragraph he could ever write. There are countless little things a man who's falling for you will do that don't always get recognized. He'll remember what time you get off work and make sure he calls or shows up when you're tired. He'll fix things you didn't even realize needed fixing. He'll stand beside you when life gets heavy, even if he doesn't always have the perfect words to comfort you. He may not say, I love you, every morning, but he'll make sure your car has gas, your door is locked, or you're safe when you walk into a room. These may seem like small gestures, but in his mind, they're his way of protecting, caring, and loving you. And here's the key: consistency is the real proof. Anybody can treat you special for a week. Anybody can show up when it's convenient. But a man who's truly falling for you is consistent. He makes effort not just when it's easy, but even when it's hard. He doesn't let arguments erase his respect for you. He doesn't let business erase his presence in your life. He may not be perfect, but you'll notice that even in imperfection, his effort remains. That is love in action. When you stop judging his love by the number of words he says and start looking at the quality of his consistency, you'll realize he's not ignoring you. He's loving you in the way he knows how. A man who values you deeply is not going to waste time proving it to the world with big speeches. He's going to prove it to you day after day with actions that leave no doubt. That's how men fall. Quietly, steadily, with effort that doesn't fade. And if you open your eyes to it, you'll see that his silence doesn't mean a lack of love. It means he's letting his actions speak louder than anything his mouth could say. Let's get something straight tonight. A lot of women confuse space with rejection, but in reality, many times when a man pulls back a little, it's not because he's losing interest. It's because he's starting to invest emotionally on a deeper level. That little gap you feel, that sense of distance that has you overthinking, isn't always him fading away. More often than not, it's him realizing that what he feels for you is getting serious, and that seriousness makes him act differently. A man who is falling for you doesn't always move fast. He slows down because he's measuring the weight of what's happening. Men are wired to protect what they value, and when they recognize that their feelings for you are no longer surface level, they naturally take a step back to process. Falling for someone is not light work, especially for a man who maybe hasn't allowed himself to be vulnerable in a long time. So what you see as space might actually be him building a foundation. He's deciding how he wants to show up for you. He's figuring out how to step into something real without breaking it. That distance is not rejection, it's preparation. See, ladies, when a man isn't serious, he doesn't think twice about anything. He plays games, he texts you without thought. He makes plans and cancels. He lives in the moment because there's nothing at stake. But when his emotions grow deeper, when he realizes you could actually be someone he doesn't want to lose, he becomes careful. He becomes intentional. That pause you feel is him taking inventory, making sure he's ready to stand by what he's feeling. That's not distance in the way you think. It's commitment building beneath the surface. It's like when a man is climbing a ladder. At the beginning, he moves quickly because the ground is still close. But the higher he climbs, the more careful his steps become. Not because he doesn't want to reach the top, but because now the fall would hurt. That's how men act when they're falling for you. In the early stages, they may come on strong, but once their heart starts climbing higher, once they realize how much is at stake, they slow down. They measure every step because one wrong move could cost them something real. And here's the part you need to understand. Men express love through emotional investment, and emotional investment doesn't always look like constant communication. Sometimes it looks like a man working harder on his future because now he sees you in it. Sometimes it looks like him protecting his energy because he wants to show up as his best self for you. Sometimes it looks like him asking deeper questions, paying closer attention, or even going quiet for a while because he's trying to figure out how to move forward the right way. Women often misinterpret that pause as disinterest, but the reality is it's often a sign that the relationship has shifted from casual to serious. What you think is him pulling away could actually be him anchoring himself, making sure he doesn't step into something he's not ready to handle. That is a man's way of showing respect for what he feels. He knows if he keeps moving the way he did before, he might mess up something important, so he takes that time to ground himself. Think about the man who keeps showing up even after he's taken that pause. He might not be as chatty as he was in the beginning, but notice how his actions deepen. He's there when it matters. He listens more. He prioritizes your happiness in quiet ways. He's not ignoring you, he's recalibrating. He's shifting from being a man who is just interested in you to being a man who is starting to build around you. And that shift takes focus, it takes emotional energy, it takes him stepping into a version of himself that's ready to love differently. This is why patience is so powerful in relationships. If you rush to judge his space as rejection, you miss the beauty of the transformation that's happening. A man who is starting to fall for you is not the same as a man who's just having fun with you. His silence carries weight, his distance carries meaning. It's not the absence of love, it's the reordering of his priorities. He's making room for you in his world, and that requires a pause. That requires him to step back, look at himself, and decide how he's going to give you the love you deserve. And let's be honest, ladies, a man who doesn't care will never give you space to grow with him. He'll keep things light, surface level, temporary. But a man who's falling for you knows this isn't casual anymore. He may not be perfect in how he handles it. He may stumble in communicating it, but his actions will begin to shift. He will care about your well-being. He will respect your boundaries. He will start planning with you in mind. That's the difference between distance and depth. So when you feel that moment of space, don't automatically assume it means he's slipping away. Look for the signs of consistency beneath the quiet. Look at how he treats you during that pause. Look at how he shows up when it matters most. Chances are he's not ignoring you at all. He's falling deeper. And that distance is just his way of protecting something that suddenly means more to him than he expected.